Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Fatback 4 for this Sunday night. I'm Gav, and with me I have Matt, Keith, and Emmet, and we're going to have a lovely chat for an hour or so about loads of Liverpool players going into the new season, which seems like it's miles away, but it's actually not. I think it's the 27th of June or something now. In about 2 weeks' time, Liverpool will take on Manchester United in Bangkok, is it?
Yeah.
And then there's loads of other games being organised. And before you know it, we will be hitting the 6th of August, I think is when the Premier League starts. And we'll all get going again on another crazy season with the Reds. But tonight we're going to talk about some players, just early doors, what we think we might need to see from them this season. And if people are in the chat and they want to throw some players that we don't talk about in there, we'll try fit them in before we finish up. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Gav. How are you?
I'm good. I've noticed the, is it a Dutch top you're wearing?
Yeah, it's our boy Virgil right there.
It's nice. Is that like
Yeah.
the current Dutch jersey?
I'm not entirely sure. It was a birthday present last year from my brother-in-law. So I married into a Dutch family, so he wanted to make sure that I have at least split national allegiances going into the World Cup with Canada and the Dutch both there. So
Okay, good stuff. Emma, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's it.
Sweating. I'm still sweating. Like it's too warm for me. Yeah, I think I'll probably put on a bit of weight.
Okay. Do you go away on holiday?
Yeah, and believe it or not, when I go away, I don't sweat.
Okay.
Weird.
Okay, so it's a different sort of heat. It's not even that hot in Dublin. No. It's all right. Has Shawnee retired from the Fatback 4? Says Jake. Jesus Christ! People take what is a holiday, and people go, "Where's he gone? He must be gone." No, he's on holiday. He's back next Sunday. I was only talking to him today. He's had a lovely
having a great time by the looks of it.
The absolute crew of Lawsons that went over to
all the Lawsons, chartered the plane, boom, the whole lot of them gone.
Lawson Air, and they've had a lovely time. He was on to me today. He said, "I'm back next week." And I've promised them next Sunday will not be a quiz or a draft because I'm not upsetting Shawnee Lawson early July. It's just not how I do it. Keith, I have noticed you though on a bit of a Paul McCartney stroke Tom Jones loving over the last 12 hours or so. Go on, talk to me.
And I stayed up late watching Paul McCartney last night on Glastonbury, and
Was
look,
he good?
He was fucking brilliant, and he's getting a lot of stick, right? Because people are saying, he played shit songs, he played songs nobody knew, but they were all Beatles songs. I love the Beatles, and I knew them, but I just thought it was great. He can't really sing, in fairness to him. He can't really sing.
But Paul McCartney must be...
He's 80 odd, yeah.
He has to be 80, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's 80 something, like. But it was fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? It was just like a memory lane job, playing all these hits. It was fucking... I have to say, it was great. I wasn't expecting it to enjoy it as much as I did because, like I said... his voice is sort of on the wane, right? Mm-hmm. And I just thought, this isn't going to be good. He was fucking brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And look, it's a nostalgia thing. It's all, it brings you back to when you were younger, listening to Beatles songs, and he played some of the big hits, but he played some of the not lesser known, but you know, some of the tracks on it were brilliant. He finished with a big medley, Golden Slumbers, which is probably my favourite, one of the top 5 Beatles songs. And anyway, and it was brilliant. I enjoyed it. And then the Tom Jones thing, I've been hearing a lot of Tom Jones lately.
Has to be nearly 80 as well.
80 something, yeah, 80 something. And his voice hasn't gone, just to be clear. He still has his voice, the bastard. But yeah, I was on a Tom Jones. I was out the other day and I heard a Tom Jones song I haven't heard in years. And I was like, I love a bit of Tom Jones. And I seen the Lawsons were partying her up as well. And someone was singing a bit of Tom Jones there. So it just Tom Jones was in my head. Yeah. And I was on a bit of a rabbit hole of Tom Jones and then went into a bit of Engelbert Humperdinck for anyone that's into that. A Tom Jones Engelbert mashup. So that's where I was at today. You can't beat it. For all the kids out there who don't know Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck, get on it.
Yeah,
get 100%. On it.
Tom Jones.
Keith, did you see the video of Tom Jones on The Voice? And Donny Lonigan's son, actually.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and the two of them sing together. The Tom Jones, like, his voice probably sounds better now than it did.
It's unreal.
Tom Jones is 82.
80. I'll tell you what, his voice is unreal. Even now, I was watching that clip earlier, Emmet. It's very good, you know what I mean? It's a great clip. And the song is, brilliant. But yeah, his voice is just unbelievable. He does them little bursts, doesn't he, on the voice every now and then when he sing a song, and it's absolute,
Everyone's
unbelievably
blown away.
powerful voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Well,
brilliant. Get on it. One for the kids. Tom Jones. He's
yeah.
going to be a star someday.
5 minutes and 55 seconds in. Two people don't like this show. It's probably because you've mentioned Engelbert Humperdinck.
Well, hold on. I will not have Engelbert slander on this. Engelbert Humperdinck is the business.
The other thumb down is definitely the person that just logs on to unlike us.
Yeah, 100%.
Look,
you might have a friend.
I literally turn on now and go, please be one thumb down every time I hit the go live button. And there usually is. So the dedication is unbelievable. Somebody did say get on Jamie Webster at Glastonbury. Did look quality and fairness. There was red smoke everywhere, loads of Liverpool jerseys and all of the crowd. So looked to be having a great time. But before we get into the football, and we've done loads of music stuff for the last 5-6 minutes. I want to say that anyone that doesn't know, we passed our €10,000 target for Féileacáin on Thursday. Little story behind it. I was on the show on Thursday doing the usual at the end, saying, look, please donate, please share, stuff like that. And I literally got off the show, went outside, looked on my phone, there was an email to say there was a donation there that brought us up to the 10k, which was absolutely brilliant. And look, it's a brilliant achievement by everybody. To anyone that's, shared it, donated, told friends, supported this channel, and retweeted stuff about Féileacáin or shared it on their Instagram or their Facebook, whatever it might be. We've got to the €10,000. I can tell you Féileacáin are absolutely over the moon. They couldn't believe when I sent them I just screenshotted the 10 grand, sent it by email to them, and they just come back and went, wow, they're absolutely over the moon. So we're going to leave it run until the 10th of July, so if anyone wants to donate and get it further beyond that, they can. But look, to reach 10,000 was absolutely unbelievable. We're now looking at our next project, and we're hoping to get that off the ground in the next week or so, because we don't hang around. So in the next week or so, week or two, we look to bring another one to the table. It might be more than 10k, it could be less, we don't know yet, but we'll definitely bring something new. So from me and everyone at the Daytrippers, to everyone that's donated or shared or just told a friend over a pint, whatever it might be, thanks a million, and the 10k will go a long, long, long way. Football though. I want to talk about some players tonight, and I know it's early doors, but there's some newcomers, into the squad. There's some players that, are coming back from injury, i.e. Joe Gomez, that was kind of nursed through last season. There's some players who are in the squad that you probably look for something different from them this season just because of the makeup of it. But we want to just talk about them, what we'd like to see from them in this season coming, 22-23. And Emma, I'll come to you first. I want to start with Joe Gomez, because they dipped him in very, very occasionally last season. Sometimes a centre back, sometimes at right back, after what could have been a career-threatening injury, if you believe what you read. And now there's talk he'll sign a new deal at Liverpool, which shows his commitment to the club, and I suppose shows the belief that they have in Joe Gomez. What do you want to see from this season? Because you have got Virgil, that's back to what Virgil van Dijk was, prior to the injury that he got. You have got Matip, who just gets stronger and stronger, I think, in durability, I suppose. You've got Kanate, who's had a superb season. But Joe Gomez, what do you want to see from him? Because I think he should be absolutely looking to partner Virgil van Dijk if he's picking his first choice centre-back pairing going into next season.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, he was the first choice before his injury. And I think some football fans have short memories. Like, he was being called Mini Van Dijk. There was games where, I don't necessarily say that he carried Van Dijk, but he probably in some games played better than Van Dijk. He's deceptively fast. I think everybody forget. And I think fans these days are too kind of quick to throw people on the scrap heap. If we did that, we wouldn't have had the season we had from Matip. I won't mention Keats trying to sell him last season.
We just have.
I think I would like to see a resurgence from Gomez. I think they have nursed him in. It's not a case of he couldn't get into the team. It has been kind of slowly. But I'd like to see a resurgence from him, similar to what Matip showed last season. I I still think he's going to play him right back. I know you don't like that, Gav, but I do still see him playing him the odd time at right back. Sorry, he'll do more of the heavy lifting to begin with, I would imagine, instead of Ramsay. But there's no reason why he couldn't displace both Matip and Konate to be the starting centre back beside Virgil.
I love Joe Gomez. I think he has everything to be, and he's already shown how good a centre half he is. He's good in the air. He's a decent passer of the ball. You've seen I think you actually seen it. I'm not a fan of him at right back over a prolonged period of time. I'm just not. I think he can stand him at certain games, fair enough, but I would prefer Joe Gomez to be only considered a centre back. And for that to happen, I think he needs to genuinely make himself undroppable at centre back, and I think he has it in him. And you look at the pace he has; he covers the ground so quick. Like we talk about Konate and Virgil being quick, Joe Gomez is lightning fast. Lightning fast, and I think he's a confidence player. When his confidence is up, he looks imperious. His confidence can drop at times, and he can give the odd ball away or be out of position, and that's fine. He's still quite young as a centre back. But Matt, like Emmet's talking there about getting back in, and he has all the talent and stuff like that. Is it realistic for Joe Gomez to come in this summer and say, no, hold on, Konate's been really good, Matip's been really good, Virgil van Dijk starts if he's fit, I want to be the man to go in there and do that? And is it the time for him to do it now with that season where he's been, like I keep saying, being brought in slowly but surely, the previous season? Is it now time for Joe Gomez to stand back up and go, hold on, before Matip decided he didn't want to get injured anymore, and before Konate arrived at this club, like people were just waxing lyrical about Joe Gomez.
Yeah, when Joe Gomez, before the most recent injuries, he was like one of the best kept secrets in the Premier League. If you didn't watch Liverpool play all the time, people they presumed he would look good because Van Dijk was beside him, and he was criminally underrated. So I hope like this preseason could be like NFL tryouts almost. We've got 3 people there for one spot beside Van Dijk in the starting berth, and all 3 of them are top quality, like top 10 in the Premier League quality center halves. But I don't think he's going to do it. And it's probably my short-term memory. It's probably from having seen Konate more recently than Joe Gomez and having been very, very impressed with Ibou Konate. I think it's a tough road for Joe. But I agree with what Emmet said. I think in the early part of the season, probably the first half of the season, we're going to see Joe Gomez at right back probably a little bit more often, maybe late in the game, substitution coming on instead of Calvin Ramsay. I could see Klopp taking his time with, I know we're going to get on to him, taking his time getting Ramsay into the team. I don't think he's just going to throw him right into the fire when you've got Joe Gomez there to do that.
Yeah, look, I get where you're coming from. I really do. And it probably is a short-term memory thing. And, I think some people at times don't want to pin their hope on Joe Gomez because of the injuries. But in fairness to him, the injuries he's got have all been impact injuries. It's not like he's pulled up with a torn groin or one where it's just he's running and he does a groin or he does a hamstring or calf or something and he's out for a while. It seems to be impact injuries. Other than that, Joe Gomez is fairly bulletproof when it comes to injuries and muscle stuff. Keith, I just really, really like him. And the only thing that stands out for me between him and Konate is Konate's goal threat, I think, is up there. It's probably the best out of the 4, if you are being honest, because Van Dijk gets marked by about 6 of them when he turns up in the box. And I think Konate is probably a bit more physical, wants to be a bit more physical than Joe Gomez. But can you see any reason why Joe Gomez can't really make a real push to be a first choice centre half, or open us up to maybe rotating Virgil van Dijk a bit more?
Yeah, look, I can't see him getting back in as a first choice centre back at the moment. I think potentially he could do it because I'm a huge fan of Joe Gomez. I just think the injuries are not taking that toll. I couldn't tell you if they're taking that toll on him, but I just fear that these bad knee injuries that he keeps getting, as you said, it's not like it's a bleeding groin or a hamstring, 10 minutes into a game and he keeps pulling up with niggles. They're big injuries. And And I don't know if they're going to wear on him. You see, Gomez's recovery pace was elite. It was one of the best in world football. And we play a high line like that, and we've got Van Dijk who's quick, and we've Gomez who was lightning. That was his, I wouldn't say his main thing. That probably was his main attribute, really, was his recovery pace. He's good on the ball. He's good in the air. He's strong. He reads the game well. I think he has lapses of concentration as well, but, you know, he's only young. I just worry that he won't get the run of games to get the sharpness back, if you know what I mean. I think the lads who are ahead of him, whether it be a fit Joel Matip or Konate. See, I think the problem Gomez has is that everything Gomez has, Konate has, but probably has a bit more of it. And he just makes a point. He's too good to be accepting third, fourth choice. He'll want game time, and that's what it could come down to. I'd love to keep him around. I'd love to give him those games. And maybe the first half of the season, with a congested fixture list, with the World Cup come up, we might see a bit of chopping and changing. I just don't know if he'll get the consistent games that he need to get back to the Joe Gomez that we know. If he signs a new contract and he's happy to stay and fight and be a fourth centre-back of a team, I mean, I'd have no problem with Virgil van Dijk being rested for games. I think we can make ourselves too over-reliant on players, and Virgil is one of them. We done a show last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was, when Konate had just come in, and we were saying, you know, any two of the four, and you're like, okay, they have attributes that we need, that we want, and Gomez is part of that, and he's still part of that. So I wouldn't mind seeing him getting more rotation in. I just don't think he's at the moment, and I could be wrong, from what I've seen, I don't think he's at the level to leap ahead of the other two, unless there's an injury, and that's what I think it would come down to, someone getting injured. Jurgen Klopp has always shown faith in players who've done it for him in the past, and Joe Gomez has done it for him in the past. But I think the lads could be onto something. I think you might see him at right back for games, and you will see him at centre back for games, but I think it'll be sort of rotational rather than nailing down one of the four slots.
Do you know what? I'm probably being a bit guilty here of looking at first choice and backup, and I don't like that. So I'm probably actually doing myself. But Keith, could it be just a case of where we, you know, like we looked at last season and we knew Van Dijk, Matip, Konate, and Gomez was there or thereabouts, but it wasn't like, oh, Gomez could start this one. It wasn't really like that because we knew of the injury. Do we need to go back to looking at this as the way it should be, really, and it's a squad game, and we just, instead of going, he has this, he has that, he's first choice, he's that, only Virgil is really where you go, he just plays, you know, there's no, should we just look back and go, or look forward to the season even, and say to ourselves, right, tell you what, four of them are fully fit, raring to go, and we need to use them as much as we can, or as much as we need to, rather than saying, oh, I'm not sure about him playing. You know what I'm trying to say, Keith?
Yeah.
We should just look at it and go, four brilliant centre-backs, whoever plays on Saturday, Sunday, or wherever it might be, we're absolutely comfortable with it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the way it should be, and that's what I'd like to see. Do you know, it's giving Gomez those minutes, but rather than it being a case of Virgil plus one of three, I'd like to see more of a just 2 from 4. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, Virgil is the best centre-back we have. He's the best centre-back in the world. Mm-hmm. But when you've got 3 lads fighting for one place, that's when it gets a bit too tricky. I wouldn't mind seeing Virgil not rested, but in games when he's maybe not needed, you know what I mean? The games are going to be ticking fast, and I just think if you can, you know, take Virgil out for a game, and just then you have more of a unit that you're saying, right, the lads all know I could be here, I could be playing the left side of the centre backs, I could be the right side of the centre back, and there's more of a unit there rather than 1+3 or 1+1 from 3. I just think that limits Gomez. And look, we talk about Gomez, the other 3 centre-backs all have injury problems as well. Do you know what I mean? Konate, we haven't seen it since he's come to us, thank God, but he had a bad injury earlier on in his career. Van Dijk's coming back from a similar injury than what Gomez had. But Van Dijk having that aura and that sort of thing where he's the alpha, he goes into the team and he plays his way through it, whereas Gomez probably doesn't get that. And we all know Matip's injury record, so I certainly wouldn't be looking to move on Joe Gomez. You know, I certainly wouldn't be looking to sell him and then something could happen, you know, and I don't like thinking about what could happen, you know. I'm not a fan of that, because you can bring in another fit centre-back who's never had as much of a cold in his life, and he could be leaving hit by a bus tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So you can't worry about injuries and what might happen. I just think it would be nice to see the four of them rotating more, and not for any that you want Van Dijk out of the team, but just in the first half of the season, using the squad and giving everyone more runs. Be interesting to see what Klopp does, because they wouldn't want to keep Joe Gomez signed there knowing that they're not going to give him games. So
if Joe Gomez is signing a new contract, he's definitely having a discussion with the club and Jurgen Klopp before he does. Jono says, can we stop with this too good to be fourth choice? We need 4 top centre-backs over a long season. Couldn't agree more with you, Jono. And that's probably my fault. I'll hold my hands up to that. That's probably my fault with the way I brought that and the way I kind of led in with that. Calvin Ramsay, though, has signed from Aberdeen. You've seen the young right-back, Bradley, isn't it? Conor Bradley. He's gone to Bolton on loan, so it kind of opens it up there. Now, I understand the whole Gomez might go in at right back if we need to rest Trent a little bit, because Trent will go to a World Cup. But, Emma, I'll come to you first on this one. I understand the Joe Gomez thing, but what do you want to see from Calvin Ramsay? Do you want to see him? Do you see him as just someone he's in the squad and he might get minutes here and there, especially League Cup, FA Cup? He might come on with that 5 subs thing that we keep going on about. He might come on for 70 for Trent. Whereas Gomez might start the game if Trent can't start one. Do you know, is that what do you want to see?
Yeah.
20 games, 20 appearances this season, something along them lines.
From everything you read, like the chap's 18, and you'd normally when you buy an 18-year-old, you expect him to come in and they play in the under-23s. But like what you said, with Bradley going out and everything you read, he's been brought in to be a first-team squad player. So they must have a lot of faith in him. I think he's got 9 assists or something in 39 games. So he has that in his locker as well. I think you could see it as the way Robbo was kind of eased into the team in his first season. And you're right, I would imagine if you're looking for somebody other than Trent to start a game, it will more than likely be Gomez. But I think mid-season to end of season, I would like to see Ramsay have established himself within the squad and to take up a kind of a Simicast role, that when the squad comes out or the first 11 comes out, if you see Ramsay instead of Trent, it's kind of like, yeah, no problem. And I don't think they show as much faith in somebody and bringing them in and throwing them straight into the first team squad if they don't think that he has that in his locker. I've not watched many YouTube videos of him. He does like getting forward. His balls into the box are quality as well. So, well, there you go, Young Scottish Player of the Year as well. But that's what I see him being kind of bled into the team slowly, but then taking a kind of a Simicast role where, and I think needs to be probably used more than what Simicast was probably used last season. And Simicast needs to be used more than he was used last season. But yeah, by all accounts, this chap is here to stay and is going to be the backup to Trent eventually. Probably not within his first season, but maybe towards the end of the season, he'd be full backup.
Okay. Matt, he's a young guy, £6 million. He looks delighted to be at Liverpool. He's spoken openly about what his attributes are. And, you know, he'd be at the AXA training centre. He's looking forward to meeting Klopp and his teammates and getting involved and showing what he can do and stuff like that. And the way he speaks, it's not someone that comes in and goes, oh, well, I'm here and I hope to impress and catch the attention of Jurgen Klopp. It's basically, I'm going to be training with all these guys. It's not like he's turning up and he's going to be one of those 23s. He's being signed for significant money. And when you kind of do the announcement like they have, it's not an under 23 players announcement. It's a first team announcement. But, you know, realistically, Matt, 15, 20 appearances this season, whether that's starting in cup games, coming on a sub, maybe starting the odd league game, depending on what we want to do. Where's the trajectory for this player this season? Because me personally, 15 appearances this season, I think would be quite good. And then look, and you're going to end up then with the calls of move Trent into midfield because this Ramsay fella is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's coming.
It's a yearly thing, you know. You can count on it like the changing of the seasons. Just like you get 9 substitutes next year. So even though you've got 5, you can still only put 9 on the bench. And so if one of those is a goalie, I'm looking at the other names. Let's say Konate starts. You've got Gomez, Matip on the bench, Tsimikas, Keita, Curtis Jones, Fabio Carvalho, Harvey Elliott, and then Bobby and Jota if the front 3 start that we think start. I don't think there's a lot of room on the bench for Calvin Ramsay. So I think he's going to be given the cups. I think that first League Cup game, you can put your bet down on it now. If he's not injured, be pretty damn sure that Calvin Ramsay's going to be the starting right back in that game. So I think it might be tough for him to nail down a spot even in the matchday squad until he's had the time to bet in. Now, maybe he hits the ground running at preseason and he catches on like unbelievably well, and he's in that vying for that position. But it's Em's correct again, and I agree with him that it's going to be that Robertson integration into the team. It's going to be a slow feathering in, maybe even like Tsimikas. Tsimikas had very few appearances in the 2021 season. People were crying out to see him more, and then he comes in the next season and he looks like he understands the system and he fits in quite well. So not a lot of money for him. He's a young kid. He can swing itself around in training and try to impress the coaches, but I'm not expecting a lot from him. So probably closer to 10 than 15 appearances for me.
Okay. Keith, the World Cup is a big thing. Where it's at this winter, I suppose, this Christmas. And I don't know how many league games we played before the World Cup. I think we're watching the World Cup final on Christmas Day or something. I still haven't got my head around the fact that this World Cup's in November or something. I just can't get my head around it. And I've refused to look at when the games are on and when the Premier League ends. I'm going to keep watching football till they go, what? It's fucking stopped. I'm going to be one of those. But is it... I completely get what Emmet and Matt are saying. Matt in particular, about the room on the bench. Maybe 10 appearances, sign them up for the cups and all that. But is it a good time for a player to come into any club? I'm not even talking about Liverpool. I'm talking any Premier League club. Top end that would have players going to the World Cup. Is it a good time to be coming in where you're going, okay, Matt's probably right at 10 appearances, but I could probably stretch to 15 and more. And if I impress, you never know after Christmas. Because of the players that, although they do everything for Liverpool, they're going to have an eye on that World Cup.
Yeah, the World Cup, the way it falls middle of the season, I don't know how many league games we play before it breaks up, but there will be opportunities. I think I hear what Matt's saying. 9 players named on the bench, 5 subs allowed. I think it plays into the lads that maybe are not getting. I don't think Jurgen will always look to top load his bench. I think. Well, I'm guessing this is what I do, and I'm not Jurgen Klopp. I'm as far from Jurgen Klopp as you'll ever get. But home games against
the hair, really.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Else,
I didn't want to
same.
say that. Tactical master. You know what I mean? But yeah, now something that I feel that we haven't really done that much is when you race into a lead in a game, or you have a stranglehold on a game, bring in young players off the bench and give them experience. Do you know what I mean? And it's something I felt maybe not even young players like Minamino when he was, looking to be integrated. I didn't feel like we maybe threw him in when we could have done. So I think there could be a case where in the first half of the season, and we're looking at home games against maybe promoted teams or the weaker teams in the Premier League, you might see him named on the bench. And if Liverpool go 3-0 up, you might see him getting 20 minutes at the end. And I think what happens there, and I don't like the idea of Trent in midfield. I really don't like it.
Because Tom Boland saying, why can't people accept that Trent is a right back? That's it. It's like we're expecting the big coming out ceremony as a midfielder. Don't ever want Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. I'm just saying, what's coming.
I think we're going to see it this season a lot. I think we're going to see it this season.
Trent.
Genuinely. Trent in
actually
midfield.
Starting in midfield or move, because he did last year. He was kind of a little bit more centrally.
And that's why I think it'll happen this year, Emma, because I felt that was the tweak last year. Was Trent was playing an awful lot in there beside Fabinho at times. Very central. And I think if Ramsay develops the way they hope Ramsay develops, I think you could see an instance where we're up in a game and we
bring Ramsay on for a midfield and move Trent in there.
There, and That's what
I don't want
that's
it.
what I could see. I personally, I don't want it either. But maybe it's Trent on the right central midfield role where he's sort of nearly playing like the way De Bruyne does, where he's still just getting into them wide areas. You know, I don't know, but I just have the suspicion that we might see that this year, just because of the fact that he played an awful lot there during the season, and I think, you know, this is all down to Ramsay really being what they hope he'll be, and I don't see why he won't be. But I think that'll be more of a second half of the season thing, just to be clear. I think if we see him a couple of times before the World Cup, then happy days. I just think the 5 subs, I think we'll see a little bit more experimentation like that, where Trent goes into midfield for the last 20. The way Liverpool play, and anyway, you know, we done a show there, and I know Matt was on it, and we were talking about change of systems, and Matt was saying 3 at the back, and I was joking saying 2 at the back, because our fullbacks are that high, and anyway, that you could play a 2-4-4. But I can just see Liverpool trying to get the passers in, because the thing about Ramsay, I don't watch a lot of Scottish football, you know, I'll be honest, but the clips that you see from him, he's similar to Trent. He's not afraid to cut it in onto his left foot and cross it in as well. You know, he's not all one-footed, which is interesting. Do you know what I mean? So when they went for this guy, they say he's a bit suspect defensively, but going forward is where he does his damage. You know, it seems like he does have a lot of Trent qualities. So maybe we might see a bit of him. I gear more to 15 appearances as well, but basing that on 10, 20 at the end of games rather than a lot of starts. Yeah. I just think that the tweak this season could be pushing Trent into midfield for 20 minutes here and there, just to get him on the ball that bit more in the more central areas than he would get at right back. I think he's better at right back. I wouldn't move him from right back, because essentially he's a right midfielder. And anyway, but I just think that could be the tweak this year, and that gets Ramsay into the team 15 times.
Okay, well, 15 appearances for Calvin Ramsay. I think everyone will be quite happy with that, whether that's cup games, odd start in the Premier League. Like you said, 10-20 minutes I think is absolutely fine.
We'll come back at the end of the season, 0 appearances.
yeah. And we'd be going like,
goes full Ben Davies.
Klopp sitting there with 3 trophies, and we're going, but he didn't play our man, did he? Like, you know. But moving into midfield, you know, like Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson, you know, Milner, Keita, you know, we kind of know what we want from them and where they'll sit. Maybe the Henderson thing, I think I have a theory on Henderson where he kind of starts to move into a Milner type role. Yeah. And I'm not talking about like where Milner 10
Swiss
games a
Army
season.
knife.
I'm talking about Milner 2 or 3 years ago, where Henderson starts to get those sort of appearances. But in midfield, I think the 2 to look at, and we'll take them both together, is Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott. Now, for me, Curtis Jones had a poor season last season, and I've no issue with it. He's a young guy. I think he was, you know, he tries to break into this Liverpool team in a massive way in season 2021, and there's just carnage around him. You know, midfielders he's expecting to play with are playing centre half, and then they're injured. The centre halves he's expecting to have behind them are nowhere to be seen, and I think it was tough on him. I think the season just gone, he had flashes, but I thought he was trying too hard at times, you know, taking shots unrealistically and trying to make an impression. And then towards the back end of the season, when you've seen him a couple of times, very press resistant, carries the ball really well, commits players, and you can see what they can see in him. And with Harvey Elliott, he's absolutely flying last season, and that injury absolutely, you know, he's gone. You know, you're writing off the season. I know he comes back, but you're writing off the season more or less, because I don't know how many appearances he gets in the league when he comes back. It might be 2, maybe 3. But as a pair, you know, and as the younger kind of men in the squad are in that midfield that's so much talked about this summer, Matt, I'll come to you. What do you want to see from them? Do you want to see Elliott just get back to where he was at the start of last season, because that's a really good jumping off point? And do you want to see Curtis Jones probably... I'd like to see him take more responsibility. And by that I mean, there's no need for all them shots at times. Just get it and play it wide, or get it and play it into the front man, get it back. You know, keep it simpler at times and just progress that bit more, because I just think he tried to get ahead of himself last season, and it just didn't work for him.
Yeah, with Curtis Jones, I think you're correct. Like, last season was not the follow-up that I think a lot of us were expecting after he did make a step up in 2021. He filled that gap when we needed to shift our midfielders into defense. I also agree with what you're saying with Henderson kind of evolving into the next Milner for the squad, as Milner leaves us probably at the end of this upcoming season. And I'd like to think that Curtis Jones is going to kind of evolve into that young Jordan Henderson player for Liverpool, which is he's constantly maligned by the fan base, and yet he becomes that player when he's not in the team. You go, geez, there's just something missing here. You can't quite put your finger on what he does when he's playing, but when he's not there, you know that something's missing. That's what I'm hoping for from Curtis Jones, that he looks at the players that are maybe a little bit more naturally gifted going forward, that are ahead of him in the pecking order and also in the formation, and understands that he can play a really important role for Liverpool, grafting around in that midfield and helping to provide the base for them. And Harvey Elliott, I'm not entirely sure why. I just have the feeling that Harvey Elliott is going to have a spectacular season for Liverpool this year. I was thinking about it in the lead up to the show today. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's chatter when it comes time for Waistcoat to pick his World Cup team that some people are calling for Harvey Elliott to be included in the squad.
Well,
I could see him having a great couple months to start the season and put himself ahead of the likes of a Mason Mount or somebody like that maybe they're just running a little bit cold. I know that Southgate is pretty loyal to his players, but I just get the feeling that there's something in Harvey Elliott. They saw it when they bought him from Fulham, and they were willing to pay that whatever the tribunal felt was necessary. I've got real high hopes this season for Harvey Elliott.
So do I. Because I think what he showed at the start of last season was a real maturity in the way he played. Didn't waste a lot of the ball. He got kicked up and down at home against Burnley, I think it was, early on in the season. Yeah. And he just kept popping back up, popping balls off. He seemed to be forming a real relationship, I thought, with Mo Salah. And where Mo Salah wanted the ball.
Trent.
Yeah, he was really getting into that, where I think Henderson was struggling with injury at the time, and you're kind of going, would you bring Henderson back in? Because they seemed, and he works hard and he gets stuck in. And I know people are saying defensively he's, there's probably bits and pieces that he needs to do more, but I'm sure that's being worked on over the last year or 6 months anyway, since he's probably come back. But I think he's a really special talent. But Curtis Jones, somebody made a great point there that he was unplayable away in Porto. But the thing about him being unplayable away in Porto was that he didn't try anything spectacular. He was winning ball, pressing, winning it, getting to the people that can affect it in a massive way, taking players on when he needed to, but keeping it really simple at the same time. And that's what you need to go back to with Curtis Jones. Keith, the talk all summer is going to be, are we signing a midfielder? And look, I'm on record as saying I understand where people are coming from, saying sign a midfielder. If we do sign a midfielder, would it hamper these two? But you just have to say, well, look, if a midfielder comes in and they're better than these two and perform better than these two, that's life.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way we're going to bring in a midfielder is if we sell Oxlade-Chamberlain. And the only way we'll sell Oxlade-Chamberlain is if Oxlade-Chamberlain wants to go. Do you know what I mean? If Liverpool get a bid and Ox wants to go, if he wants to stay, people need to get the idea of signing the midfielder out ahead. I would sign a midfielder this summer because I believe we'll have too much to do next summer if we don't. Mm-hmm. But in saying that, I'm a big fan of Curtis Jones. I think Curtis Jones is an excellent player, right? I think he's really, really good. I think the problems Curtis Jones has is that he does take a little bit too much out of the ball. And I think he shoots ridiculously because he scored one early against Everton. And I think they're traits that you can get out of him. If he has anything about him. Now, if he doesn't, that's on him. You know what I mean? He's at a crossroads here where he could be Jordan Henderson or he could be John Joe Shelby. And I think this is a pivotal season for him. Do you know what I mean? John Joe Shelby was an excellent footballer. And when we saw John Joe Shelby, all the talk was, it's the new Steven Gerrard, the new Steven Gerrard, the new Steven Gerrard. He was built like him. He ran like everything like you're looking and you're thinking, yeah, this young fella is good. This young fella is good. And it never happened for him. He had a good career, but it never happened at the top for him. Now, I think Curtis Jones is at that. I've seen people saying I'd loan out Curtis Jones. I wouldn't loan out Curtis Jones for all the tea in China. I think he's a good player. I think he's an excellent option for us to have in our squad. And I think this could be a big season. I think this could be Curtis Jones's breakthrough season. He's been in the squad the last few years, 3 years. I think he's been in the first team squad. Last season, he had a bad injury, he had a bad eye injury there last season as well, which hampered him. I just think he gets too much stick, and Matt made a great point. With Jordan Henderson, stick, does the business for us, and Curtis is falling into that sort of category as well. Obviously, he hasn't done the business, but if we think back to 10 years ago to Jordan Henderson, when you knew there was a player there and you just hadn't seen it yet, and I think Jones is in that category. Now, he needs to get into the team, and if you're looking at it now, you say Fabinho, you say Thiago, and then you can say Keita or Henderson. Now, I think Henderson, Gav, you touched on Henderson's role. I think
he
Henderson
plays over 50 games last season.
Yeah, he's the most. He plays the most. Yeah, he plays the most. I just think he's going to see more of Henderson at the 6 this year. I think you're going to see less of him in that sort of right-sided midfield as the season progresses. And I think that's where Harvey Elliott comes in, because none of us saw the transformation coming for Harvey Elliott last year when Jurgen Klopp, he comes back from loan. He's a right winger, left-footed right winger. He's behind Mo Salah. You're like, this kid isn't going to get games. And they seen in him right-sided midfield. And what he done, every year Klopp tweaks the system. And sometimes it's an obvious tweak and sometimes it's not. And what he done last season was they wanted to get the little triangles. Tifo Football done a good thing about this the other day on Twitter. They got them little triangles with Elliott, Salah and Trent. But it was all happening 20 yards further up. Do you know what I mean? And Elliott was finding himself into the more in between the lines than Henderson finds himself. And it was creating options all over the place. If he doesn't get injured, we don't know what happens last season. But it looked to me like he was nailing down, and that was the way this team was going to progress. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting. If he's fit, I wouldn't be surprised to see him for Klopp to try that again. But it creates a logjam. So where does Curtis Jones then get his minutes? He looks better on the left side. And as was said there, Owen, I think, or someone said that they were at the Southampton game where the two of them played. They were brilliant. Do you know what I mean? They were brilliant. And again, this could come down to teams,
it's a
weaker
consistency
teams
thing,
and
though.
doing that.
Yeah,
it
but
is
it's a consistency thing. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to read two out to you here because I think they kind of tie in well, right? Paul Smith said, let's face it, our midfield is full of too many journeymen and workmen and not enough flair, technique, creativity and press resistance. Okay? And Jono follows it up with, Gav, it feels a bit risky. We are pinning too much or so much of our midfield hopes on a 21-year-old Jones, 19-year-old Elliott, 19-year-old Carvalho. We'll get on to him in a minute. But, you know, the way I look at it is, Emmet, is it just I get the whole thing with the creativity thing. I do. When you take Thiago over, the creativity for me drops, right? And that's a fair thing to say because we've had such a functional midfield for a long time. All right. And although we do tweak things, most of the time we even speak about Thiago, how he hunts the ball down, how he keeps it ticking over, and you know it's still functional. Is the worry for midfield not the numbers we have or not the makeup of it? It's just like Jono says there. Let's take Carvalho out for a minute. But our main creativity, bar probably Thiago, is a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. Is that where the worry comes from? And maybe people want that midfielder like where they're 24, 25, 150, 200 games behind them. They have got technique, flair, creativity, and people will feel more comfortable in that. Or do we just need to let these two have a right go with it?
I think we should get a midfielder as well, but I'm of the opinion that we need someone more defensive than going forward. I've never looked at it really 100%. Like that. And we've not had a problem scoring goals. So I get the whole creativity, but we've been scoring for fun in games as well. So it's like we've never really replaced Coutinho with his creativity. I think Carvalho plays an awful lot like Coutinho plays. I think we could probably see Bobby dropping a little bit more as well, which he'll have creativity as well. In terms of Jones, I really like Jones. He's an absolute unit as well. I think, and I need to be very careful what way I word this because I said this behind the scenes and now I'm going to say it on the show. He skirts the line between confident and cocky. And sometimes he gets a little bit cocky for my liking, a little bit too big for his boots. And I think, yes, he had his injury last year, but I think Klopp maybe kind of put the leash on him a little bit. And when he came back, he did look changed. He wasn't shooting on sight. He held onto the ball a hell of a lot more. I agree with Keith. I think it could be a big season for Jones this season. I think Elliott, if given the chance, will nail down that spot that he should have had bar the injury last season. So I don't see that and I get Jono's point, but I don't see that we're being over-reliant on them. We do have other midfielders as well. But I just think these are only going to add to what we have. I don't see it being over-reliant, if I'm being perfectly honest.
But the argument will be that if you think you're going to sign a midfielder and you want to sign him more defensive, right? Which is a fair point, because I think Fabinho, people think we just dominate games and Fabinho just breaks up the odd thing, and he covers so much ground, Fabinho, and he does a lot of work because of the way we play. Tommy C says we don't get enough goals from midfield. That's why we should be signing one this summer. Do any of you see, and I agree with that, I don't think our midfielders get enough goals. But having said that, the way we play is not tailored to our midfielders scoring an awful lot of goals.
Our team gets a lot.
Our team gets a lot of goals.
17 from midfield is what we got last year.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we're not tailored to, where our fullbacks don't create much, so we have to go through midfield in order to get goals. It's just not the way we play. Could it be a case of where loads have spoken about changes in systems where you go, okay, let's play two? Because if you see Henderson in a more defensive role, in a 6 for argument's sake next season, why are you signing a defensive midfielder, right? So then you look forward to that and you say, right, okay, let's just say they're going to play Henderson in there when Fabinho can't. So then you look forward to that and you say, right, I think the only real way to get out of this, right, and get more goals from midfield is a change in system, right, where you can still allow your fullbacks to do what they're doing. You can still probably have the front three that are on the pitch to still be on the pitch, but the change will be where you play 2 in midfield and you play 1 ahead, and that 1 ahead is given that license to go and get more goals in midfield, whether that's Elliott, whether that's Jones, whether that's Keita, whether it's Firmino, whether it's a new player that comes in, but it gives them license to go, and their main thing in the team is to create. Because I think our 3 midfielders, I don't think the main thing in their team is to create. I think it's to stop, and I think it's to distribute. That's what I think it is. Maybe that's the biggest argument for changing system, is to get another player in the team that will, go and look to create. Because we've seen him when Jota come in. Do you remember? Always playing the 4 of them. Do you remember he just played the 4 of them? And you're like, fuck me, he's going for it. The sort of way. So I think there's loads of ways you can look at it. But I still think no matter what way the deck falls, I still think you have to give Elliott and Jones a chance. But I completely understand someone saying bring in a midfielder, and I think the biggest one is what you say, Keith. Too much to do next year. Keita doesn't sign a deal. We've said if Keita doesn't sign a deal, you have Milner leaving next summer. I think is almost certain. You have Keita that will be out of contract. You've got Henderson that will again be another year older. You've got Thiago another year older. And then you're looking and you're saying to yourself, we do need something. Because next, if you're going strictly on numbers, and even if Oxlade-Chamberlain could run out his contract as well, strictly going on numbers, you could lose 3 of them like that next summer. And you have to replace them if your argument this summer is numbers. You're gone from 8 to 5. You're going to have 8, aren't you? Because you couldn't bring in a midfielder last year because you had 8, so you're going to have to get back to 8. So I think it's really interesting, but I'd love to see...
The midfield, Gav, is, if we believe the Jude Bellingham links, right, that Jude Bellingham is the one we want and that's who we're going heavy for. Well, Jude Bellingham is you could say he's a box-to-box midfield player, but he's much more of an attacking box-to-box midfield player than a defensive box-to-box player. Mm-hmm. Think like a Roy Keane would be a defensive box-to-box player, Stevie G, attacking box-to-box. I still think when you look at the players that were being linked with, and links are, I can give you 20 links now that I've just make up off the top of my head. But if you take some of them with a pinch of salt and you look at they were going for too many, that they were interested in Sangare, that tells me that they're looking for a young player that can cover in that sort of defensive side of it. You know, they're not defensive. They're not solely defensive midfield players. They're both actually number 8 players that do the defensive side of it. And I think they'd look to bring in a player like that. And if they could get one cheap, you know, that's what they do. I don't think they'd be looking to bring in. I don't think Klopp sees a problem with the goals from our midfield. I think if they look to do one this summer, it will be the
Otavio is the latest as well. People
Otavio, I think that got poo-pooed a bit. That's a strange one. He's 28 or something.
That was around last year as well.
We were linked with him last year. Yeah, he's a wide player, and he'd be one that you could say, right, he could do a job on the right side of a midfield. I don't know if I'd be into that myself. But if you look at like Mateus Nunez, right, from Sporting Lisbon, he is like Thiago, right? He's a Thiago clone. So they're linked with him. They're probably looking at, right, Thiago doesn't have, 5 years in the team left. You could look and say this is the one that he's going to replace him with. Bellingham is the one that's going to replace Henderson maybe in the long run, in the sense he's the one that's going to have the energy and be breaking forward and trying to do that. I just think the one they would do this summer would be a player with more defensive nous in that midfield. So I don't think they're looking to add goals from the midfield. We scored a lot of goals. Our midfield, it sounds stupid, our midfield are not there to score goals. It's ridiculous. It'd be great if they do, and Jurgen Klopp wants them to score goals. But it's to facilitate the rest of the team. And the one thing Liverpool are not shy about was scoring goals. I know when the forwards, do have dips, that's why you have more forwards and creative players, and you want your fullbacks chipping in. I think, they're nearly essentially auxiliary wingers in the squad. I'm not as worried about getting the goals from midfield. I mean, was it Emmet or Matt said that we never... the creativity of Coutinho. I think we got better when we replaced the creativity of Coutinho with the direct running of Oxlade-Chamberlain, and that's mad to say now because of the way Oxlade-Chamberlain's career has gone. But that year before he got injured, he was brilliant in the team that season. When he started getting into the midfield, he was driving from the midfield.
Because the function of midfield had that direct running.
Yeah.
And it was an extra element. And, that's where the excitement came in for some Liverpool fans, where you went... Especially when you seen they went to the Etihad and played Jota, Firmino, Mane, Salah, didn't they? And they're just going for it. And then when you seen, I'd even think when you seen Elliott in the side, where you went, Elliott's not going to do what Jordan Henderson does and, cover for Trent while he goes forward and stuff like that. But what they actually done was, instead of leaving Trent and Salah to go forward and cause murder, they actually used as like 3 of them overloading that side, and we're opening teams up in that way. And yeah, listen, I just think there's loads of options there in midfield, but I 100% get the thing where you sign a midfielder. I'm not really on the defensive minded bandwagon. I'm just not. I think if you told me Klopp was going to play 4-2-3-1 next season, I'd probably look and go, right, he's loads of options there. Even in that 10, I think he's loads of options there. I think if he plays a 4-3-3, but he wants something extra in midfield, I think he has got options there. But there's an argument where you could actually have, you could actually bring in a player and maybe up the options a little bit. But like I said, I think it's going to take one to live before one goes. And I'm with Keith. I think there might be a lot to do next summer unless something drastically changes. I want to finish with 2 players. The first one, and Matt, I'm going to come to you because, like, Matt, listen, you have a telescope, right? Okay, and you can basically see back to when time started or something like that. There was a big bang, and you can literally see back as far as 5 seconds after it happened or something. So you know loads of shit. What are we going to do with Fabio Carvalho? Where do you see him playing? What position do you think he takes on the pitch? And you can go with any formation you want, because I don't really care. This is all about opinion. It's not like absolute fact. But where do you see him coming in? And similar to kind of Calvin Ramsay, how many appearances do you see him having? What sort of impact? Because I get the feeling he might get a lot of game time this season. A lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, space telescopes only look back in time, not forward in time. Because
yeah, but if it keeps going, it'll come back on itself, and eventually end up looking
Oh,
forward.
you're talking about a circular universe. Well, there's different opinions on that. Okay.
Matt,
Well,
the
it's definitely
Daytrippers
not
do
flat.
not go with logic. We will take the logical and we will twist it to suit our own arguments.
Can you not
here, so.
hit a button at the telescope that looks forward instead of back? That's what I'm fucking saying.
Doesn't work like that. Light only travels one direction. I honestly, like, you know, since being on the shows and thinking about this stuff more and more, and, you know, oh, geez, I got to be analytical and really try to think about this. I have no fucking clue where he's going to play. Left, right, middle. Like, I have no idea. And it's really exciting. Like, I haven't looked forward to preseason, like, you know, when that first preseason game comes on, just to see when the lineup comes out of where he's going to use him. Because I do think he's going to end up getting a lot of appearances. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Fabio Carvalho ends the season with more appearances than Curtis Jones. That wouldn't surprise me, even if they both stayed healthy. I just think the team, again, sees another little starlet that's over at Fulham and just goes, yoink, we'll take that off your hands and we'll put this to proper use. I mean, he was in the championship team of the season as an 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, championship is a famously difficult league to play in, and that's a pretty big accomplishment for a young man of that age. So, he just has me completely excited about him, because I really only watched the one game when Fulham played City in the league or the FA Cup last year, and you know, he linked up really well with Mitrovic, but it was hard to picture how that would work in our system because we didn't play with an out-and-out number 9. Well, foolish me, should have pointed that telescope into the future because we got one of those now. So, yeah, who knows? But it's exciting.
Laura Duffy says, instead of hitting the button on the telescope, hit the like button. You can't if you want. We're not bothered anymore. Turn the telescope around and look through the big end, says Avo the Third. There you go. Hannah Alone says, Carvalho is the player I'm most excited about, to be honest. I think it's intriguing. If I was to put a shout on my own, off my own bat, I can see him being deputy to Luis Diaz on the left-hand side. I think with the departure of Mane, Diaz slots as your starting left-hand side. But I think what I've seen from Carvalho, I think he'd be comfortable there. I don't see the argument for him being in a 3-man midfield simply because of the argument we literally had 2 or 3 minutes ago about the defensive nous of certain players. I think he likes to get at players. I think he can press really well. He holds the ball really well. He runs with it brilliantly, but he runs off the ball unbelievably well. Like, and that's what, when I see how well he runs off the ball, that third man running or making those runs in behind, you know, across a full back to get, like Mane done for years, where he was so good at it. Mane used to just step 5 yards off a defender and go now. And by the time he copped it, he was still 2 yards onside, but Mane was, you know, gone and he was well away. If it was me, I think left-hand side. I think it takes a bit of responsibility off him that he's not central and being looked to be the absolute focal point in this Liverpool side. But I'm really excited about him. And I think the fact that Luis Diaz is, I think he's going to be brilliant. I'm not going to touch on him too much tonight because we've spoken a lot about him over the last couple of months. But I think Carvalho coming in there and knowing he's deputy to him, I think still means he get an awful lot of football. Keith, Carvalho, this is the bit where you tell me he's going to play like fucking sweeper because he's deadly.
They used to have a contributor on these shows, Shawnee Lawson, and Shawnee thinks we're all sleeping on Carvalho, and I think he could be onto something. I think Carvalho starts the season in the team. I think I just can see us switching to a 4-2-3-1 for some reason, and I don't know why. And I'm basing a lot of that. I'm basing a lot of that on us signing Carvalho and Nunez, and I can see him in the 10. I can see him playing in the 10 at the start of the season.
Okay, so just to go with this argument, right? About the 4-2-3-1, right? Because I think the 4-2-3-1 makes less sense if you're looking to sign a midfielder. I think 4-3-3 makes more sense. Yeah, that's why
I don't think we're signing a midfielder.
Right? So we go into the first game of next season. You think you would have the back four, whatever it is, right? You'd have 2 at the base, which could be Fabinho, Thiago. Let's just say. Yeah. And then you're thinking Luis Diaz, Fabio Carvalho, Mo Salah, Darwin Nunez. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm in. Like I'm not giving out.
And we may never see that lineup, not even once.
No,
do you know what I mean?
We fucking said it.
I just think I get what you're saying about Carvalho playing off the left-hand side as a backup option, because he'd done a lot of his damage.
It's
for
just
him
running
there.
off the ball that would make me
Yeah.
see him out more out wide
Yeah.
than a 10.
I agree. I think he's very good, but and Antio Chill says if he starts from the flank and moves into the 10, Carvalho will basically be around Bernardo Silva, and yeah, I can see that sort of development for him. He's only young. He is only young, but Klopp's not afraid to throw a young fella into the team. He done it with Harvey Elliott. We just spoke about Harvey Elliott being given the responsibility in the midfield three. I wouldn't be surprised if this kid tears it up, because it's a big step up from the Championship to the Premiership. We all know that. But he's the Young Player of the Year in the Championship. He has a style of play that, although he's English, isn't he? He's sort of, I know he's a Portuguese youth international, but I think he's more or less grown up all his life in England. He's got that style of play where he's got that continental style in him. And I think he comes in here and he's a bit fearless, and he comes in and stamps his authority on it from early on, and it's going to surprise us. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe we never see him again, and like Calvin Ramsay, 0 minutes. But I just think he's going to be the surprise one from the start. I can see us just, you touched on it yourself, Gav, when he played the 4 forwards last season. Bobby in a 10 intrigues me a bit. But I don't know. I think if he does go to the 4-2-3-1, I think he'd start this young fella ahead of him. I think this young fella could be the key there. And that's only what I'm basing. 4-2-3-1, if we're not signing a midfield player, because we don't need a new midfield player, if we play 4-2-3-1, you can play in the 2, you can have Fabinho, Henderson, Keita, Thiago, Milner. Any combo with the 2 of them. In the 3, you don't have to have all wingers and 10s. Curtis Jones can play on the left side of that front of that 3 and be effective. Naby Keita could play on the left side of that 3 and be effective. Do you know what I mean? So I just think some of the players we have, but look, this is all FIFA and Championship manager stuff where you're making up formations to suit the players you have. Jurgen Klopp knows what he's going to do. I just think that the Harvey Elliott thing last season, where they just threw him in there because he was fearless and he was pushing the play 10 yards further up than when Hendo maybe had it. I just think bringing this young fella into play off Nunez could be the little firecracker we need to sort of ignite the new attack this season. And I wouldn't be surprised to say it happening. I could be talking shy. I tend to talk a lot of shy.
Yeah, you
but
do.
I just think this will be I just think this could be the surprise one that we have this season, that he starts. Now, whether he stays there or not, but I just think he starts in the 10.
The 4-2-3-1,
not in a 3, because I don't think he can play in the 3.
No, I think
the 3. It has to be in attacking.
I think the 4-2-3-1 option means that you could probably say, right, Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson, Keita, 2 from 4, right? And then you're freeing up the likes of Elliott, Jones, Diaz, Salah, Carvalho, Firmino, whatever it might be, Nunez, Jota up front, wherever you want. I think it probably puts less pressure on the midfield numbers you have, and you know that because people point out that some of these players have got injuries and injury records, and maybe that protects them a little bit more. I think it's really interesting the more I kind of think about this 4-2-3-1. But Emmet, I see him out left. Matt doesn't know. He doesn't give a fuck either. Keith sees him possibly in the 10. Is it just a case of, look, just wait until the 12th of July and we could show up and he could be playing right wing and we're all sitting there going, yeah, we're saps.
Come here. The good thing is that he could probably play in any of those positions and play them well. I think it all depends on the actual formation. If it's the 4-3, if we stick with 4-3-3, I probably agree with you. We probably play kind of second fiddle to Diaz. But if we do go to the 4-2-3-1, I could probably see him playing in the 10. But that's the thing, is he's versatile. He can play both. And we're kind of nearly spoiled for choice. He's played off Mitrovic. You've got Jota, who's played off Jimenez at Wolves. We didn't even mention Jota up until a few minutes ago when you mentioned him, Gav. So we're kind of nearly spoiled for choice. I'm not sure whether you'll see both Carvalho and Elliott start the season in the team. I think it'll probably be along the lines of when we see if he rests Robbo and plays Tsimikas, Trent plays. If Trent doesn't play and he plays somebody else, Robbo plays. He never really kind of takes both of them out at the same time, unless it's maybe in a League Cup game or something like that. But I can't imagine him playing both Elliott and Carvalho at the same time. It'll be one in, kind of one out. But I think we'll see a hell of a lot more of Carvalho than we'll probably see of Ramsay this year. But he looks like, and it's the championship as well. Like, he's not coming from Scotland.
But someone said there, I put up on the screen, I think, but
physical league. Like.
Yeah, but someone said there, like, if they sign him from Barcelona, like, the hype will be absolutely unbelievable. You know what I mean? Fran says if Carvalho was signed from Barcelona, the hype will be unreal. That's the sad fact of it. He's going to be special in his opinion. But I think you're right, Emmet. Like, and it's a good point. He could play any of them positions and probably play them well. That's what you want. Klopp loves that. Flexible player that can play left, right, central, play off the front man, go up, throw him up front if you need to. Look, I remember the times when he played Wijnaldum as a 6, then he played him as left hand side in a 3, and then he went to Barcelona and played him as a 9. You know, sort of way. And I know it sounds funny, but that's the sort of player he loves. You know, if he turned to Wijnaldum,
but even with Bobby, Salah, and Mane, when they were absolutely wreaking havoc on teams, you didn't know who was going to show up in what position. They were swapping and changing throughout the game. Salah would pop up on the left, so I can see kind of a similar thing with Carvalho. I'm not going to say that he'd flow, do you know what I mean? Because they will. I can see them swapping and changing positions throughout the game, and he could pop up on the right, he could pop up in the 10, he could pop up out left. I think it is like the evolution of what we've seen before, and these are just lads that are coming in to pick up the mantle from where others maybe have left off.
Yeah. Darwin Nunez is the last one I want to talk about. We spoke at length about him when we done the whole show about him signing and stuff like that. Everyone's very excited by him. A lot of people mentioning, since I opened my mouth about Jota, a lot of people are mentioning Jota. Chris Brack says, I think Jota is being slept on. August to January was excellent for us. Didn't really find that level after he got the ankle injury before the League Cup final. He scored a lot of big goals. I think he gets 21 goals and 8 assists last season. And, you know, in fairness, like Jono says, why does Jota get overlooked these days? Online fan base treat him like he's Fabio Borini because he had a bad end of the season. He still scored 21 goals. I love Diogo Jota.
Yeah,
I love him. I don't think I don't like him wide. I will say that. I don't like him wide. But in fairness, when he comes on wide left, he doesn't really play wide left. He kind of plays inside left and tries to get as close to the central striker as he can. I don't think he's a penalty box poacher, but I think he's a brilliant penalty box finisher. You know, give him a chance and he scores. I don't think he sniffs out chances, but if you give them to him, he's really, really good. And, you know, I think Jota, I'd be looking at Jota to get another 25 goals next season in all competitions, and I think he's well able to do it. I think people have kind of, not forgotten him, but kind of, you know, seen Darwin Nunez as, oh, thank God Darwin Nunez is here because Jota wasn't good for 3 months. For fuck's sake, you know, like, Jota's been an absolutely brilliant. I think he's something like, I think someone said 56 goal contributions in 83 games or something for Liverpool, something ridiculous like that. I could be way off with that, but I know it's really, the ratio he has of games to goal involvements is really, really good. But Darwin Nunez, again, going back to when we were talking about the centre back stuff at the start, I see Darwin Nunez as a big signing for Liverpool. The way he plays, the style of play is great, but I don't see Darwin Nunez as the be all and end all of Liverpool strikers. I see him as complementing Firmino and Jota. I am picking 1 from 3 if you have to, maybe 2 from 3 if you want to rest somewhere else. But Darwin Nunez for me, I have a feeling like you have feelings about Carvalho and maybe Luis Diaz and stuff. I have a feeling on this fella that, you know, when you see strikers come in the league and they just score early and it just goes mental. You know, I kind of have that feeling on him. Keith, Darwin Nunez, what do you expect from him this season? And I'm not talking appearances, goals.
I expect him to get 20 Premier League goals.
Not in all comps.
Not Premier League. That could be set.
You really like him, don't you?
I do really like him. He's a good player. You know, we can get swept up in the big price tag. You know what I mean? And it's funny, you know, everyone quotes Darwin Nunez 85 million or 100 million euro apparently is
200
what we're paying
million
for. Yeah, exactly. Whereas that's if we're winning leagues and European Cups and we have to pay the full whack for Darwin Nunez, I would be more than happy with that. But you see other players, like you see Calvin Phillips going to Man City and it's like 40 million, possible 3 million add-ons or whatever, and Gabriel Jesus going to Arsenal and it's 40 million plus add-on. It's with Liverpool, it's always the high figure. And I think this fella's going to be good. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Look, people who watch the show now, I love South American footballers. And I think this fella just has that sort of... we've seen the comparisons, Torres, Suarez, Cavani, these are good. He's not getting linked with... Phil Casey will say he's the Andy Carroll and Andrea Silenzi. That's who he's compared them with. But
yeah, but Phil...
Yeah, exactly. And that should encourage everyone else. But I just think... I like this fella. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be a handful. He's not going to be just... He is going to do his damage in the box. We all know that. But he's going to be coming wide. He's going to be running at players. He's 6'2", but he's quick. He's big. Teams are not going to want to... he's going to pull onto a lot of fullbacks. And fullbacks aren't going to want this fella anywhere near them. We saw our centre-backs. We saw it with Kanate in the Champions League where he's pulling the centre-backs out to the fullback positions as well. And they're not going to want that either. I just think he's going to be an absolute headache for players. And I think he's got the finishing ability, whether that be heading, whether it be long range, whether it just be falling in the box, beating a man and slotting them. He's a good range of finishing. And I just think this fella is going to be good. I think he's going to get 20 Premier League goals. And look, not many get 20 Premier League goals in their history. Michael Owen never got 20 Premier League goals. Do you know what I mean? So I just think this fella's going to absolutely... We've seen it with forwards before. We saw when Suarez came in, he hit the ground running. I know it took him a while before he was getting 30 goals and that, but you knew straight away. Torres, you knew straight away. Salah, you knew straight away. Mane, you knew straight away. And I think this fella's the next one. That's even Jota. Jota comes in and bangs in goals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't see any reason why this fella won't. Do you know what I mean? I think he's more of a goal scorer than them. Than Jota, than Salah, than Mane. And I think he's going to go into this team where he's going to get chance after chance put on a play for him. And if he misses one or two, he'll get the next one. And that's what I expect from him.
Andy O'Chill says, I rewatched his moments against us last night. How he chipped Alisson was incredible. Would like to see Andy Carroll try that. Emmet, Darwin Nunez, don't care how many appearances. Keith's gone 20 Premier League goals. You can go in all competitions if you want. Keith's gone a bit balls out. What do you see for Darwin Nunez, or what would you like to see?
I was thinking about it earlier on, and I was thinking 15 Premier League goals to ease himself in. Probably 24 in total, I'll say. But I think the good thing is, and we've mentioned a few others, we've mentioned Suarez, we've mentioned Torres, when those lads came in, there was an awful lot of pressure on them because they were to be they needed to score the goals.
Torres in particular.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that Nunez doesn't need to score goals, but if he comes in and doesn't hit the ground running, I think he will. He has all of the attributes, like we said, a cross between Torres and Cavani, or Cavani and Suarez is what people are saying. But there's other people there to score goals if he's not. So there's not that pressure on him to come in and have to deliver straight away. I don't think, look, it's a large fee, but I don't think Klopp will allow him to feel the pressure. He'll have his feet on the ground. I'm not saying that his feet wouldn't be on the ground, but he'll have him in the right headspace. But there's not that pressure for him to come in and be the be all end all. I think, I'll be controversial, I think he probably has a better season than Haaland. I think City have to completely change their style of play to suit Haaland. I don't think we need to change our style of play to actually suit Nunez. I think he fits straight in.
I like this.
I've watched videos of Haaland, not playing football, walking around in general, and I think he's a model to be retired early, like his dad, an absolute model, refusing MRIs and taking painkilling injections. I saw a video of him walking out of Barcelona airport. He looked like a geriatric. He looked like he had arthritis and everything already. So I'll put my neck out there and I'll say Nunez has the better season than Haaland. But yeah,
But then you'll probably have to reconfigure your prediction then, because I can't see Haaland not scoring more than 15 goals for.
Haaland averages 24 league games a season.
Okay,
So,
right,
yeah,
stick with it.
No. Well, look, I'm being kind of conservative, saying 15. But if he hits the ground running, look, I think he could finish our top scorer. He could even finish the league's top scorer.
Kevin Ball has 30 goals in all competitions. Somebody earlier had 40. Laszlo says fitness permitting, he sees 20 to 23 in the league, 40 in all comps. I just want to see him come in. I get where you're coming from if he doesn't hit the ground running. I'd love to see him not even hit the ground running. But, you know, if you're sitting there with Darwin Nunez where he has 3 goals in the 4-6 games, you go, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. 6 and 6, you're kind of going, he's hit the fucking ground running, he's trampling on things. And 1 in 6, you're kind of going, you know, it'll kind of measure out where people see him and stuff like that. But I agree with you. I think there's goal scorers in this team that will complement them anyway. And I just have a really big feeling on him. Matt, I know you didn't care about the last player we mentioned, but maybe you care about Darwin Nunez.
It's not that I didn't care about Fabio Carvalho. It's just he's an enigma wrapped in a mystery to me. But Darwin Nunez, I think he's going to really benefit by the strong contingent of attacking players we have that Spanish Portuguese speaking link. I think that's going to help him settle really, really well. Having those players there that can communicate with him and get the ideas across. So I don't think we need to, like you said, we don't need to adapt our style to the way he's going to play, that he'll be able to slot in for us. I don't know about 20 goals. I could see him having 40 goal involvements in all competitions, goals and assists, because I can see him drawing that extra defender that would have been over double or triple teaming Mo Salah. I can see that defender starting to get pulled over to Darwin Nunez more and more, or him pulling out to the left-hand side and tucking the ball inside for a Luis Diaz running onto and banging the goal in. So I can see him contributing with a lot more assists than we'd normally think from a number 9. But at the same time, I think he's going to absolutely love playing in this team. And, you know, Keith's 20 Premier League goals for the season kind of blew away what I was thinking was a hot take. Was I can see Trent hitting 20 league assists. I can see Trent Alexander-Arnold getting 20 league assists this year with the players we got, with the speed they have, and that cut back in on his left. I think that's going to be deadly for us this year. And Darwin Nunez is going to profit off of that like crazy. Okay,
so overall we're looking at Keith has 20 Premier League goals. Emma has 15, 24 overall. Matt reckons somewhere around 40 goal involvement, which is probably the biggest shout of them all.
I went last. I had to keep going up.
I think Darwin Nunez, I think he does 35 plus in all competitions. Yeah, nice. I do. And listen, I'll say what Keith says.
You went last.
I come completely wrong, but there's just something about him when I see the goals he scores, the positions he takes, and the space he makes in the box is unbelievable for me. And I think Liverpool, along with Man City, struggle for space in the box simply because they dominate a lot. I think Spurs will get an awful lot more space in the box. Arsenal would, Chelsea would, United would, than we do, right? Because they're not dominating games like we would, where us and City dominate, and you see teams and they drop onto the penalty spot or just inside their own box for a lot, and he just seems to find space. And not only does he find space, his first touch and his finishes off the left foot, off the right foot, he scored one, and I keep going back to it, and I just keep watching it, where he's putting down the left and he just whips this thing into the far corner like it's mad. And then he scores one in the same game where it's played down the inside right channel in the box. And he just pivots. While he's pivoting, just powers it across the goalkeeper. And it's all about finding space. And I just think the sort of player he is, complemented with what the players we have, in particular that Diaz can hurt you, so you're going to have to watch him. Salah can most definitely hurt you, so you're going to have to watch him. Firmino can hurt you given the chance. The fullbacks can hurt you given the chance. They can't cover everyone. They cannot cover everyone like they've tried to in the past, and he's just a different dimension. And I think that's why Mane came on so well at the back end of last season, because as much as you can try sort Diaz out and sort Mane or Salah out, Mane's really good in the box as well. And that's where Mane shone, because while they were trying to look after these two, Mane went, well, just give it into me. And I can header, I can finish, I can run beyond centre-backs. Nunez can do this as well, but I think Nunez is an absolute centre-forward at the same time. He's not a left-winger that can play centre-forward. That's what Mane is. And Mane will probably end up becoming a centre-forward in those 3 years at Bayern Munich. But for me, Nunez is a centre-forward that if you take your eye off him, he's going to hurt you. And even if you have your eye on him, just the space he makes in the box, I think, is incredible, just from what I've seen from him. So I'm going to say 35 plus goals. And I know that's a huge shout on the 27th or 28th of June, but I just get that feeling off him. And I don't usually say that about players where I go, I have a feeling about this fella. It's just something about him, and the goals I've seen him score, and the chances we will give him, I think he's a finisher. He's an absolute finisher.
People do always...
An instinctive finisher, sorry, he's an instinctive finisher as well. He very rarely looks at the goal before shooting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say he knows where the goal is. Everybody knows where it is at the end of the pitch. But he literally is striking the ball without taking a glance at the goal. He literally knows where it is at all times, wherever he is on the pitch. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Go on, Keith.
Yeah, it's funny like that. I was looking at people trying to slate Darwin Núñez. A lot of Manchester United fans, in fairness, after they didn't sign him, and saying, his goal record is inflated because he got a lot against relegation teams, and he got penalties, and he got this and he got that. Doesn't matter. Do you know who I seen him tear the arse out of? Us. So he can do it against good teams. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be worrying. He's at that stage. We said this about Luis Diaz as well. He was ready for that jump to explode. And all right, well, he hasn't got the goals yet for Liverpool. He's taken it really in a stride, and we expect big things from him. Nunez is the same thing. He's ready now, I think, to take that jump. And I think people are just wishing, not Liverpool fans, non-Liverpool fans, are just wishing that this is the one we get wrong. They wish everyone is the one we get wrong. I think Liverpool put too much into these players now, that they're fully confident that this lad is going to absolutely tear the league apart. And people say about Man City signing Erling Haaland, they're going to be unstoppable now that they have a centre-forward, because they haven't had a centre-forward. They had Gabriel Jesus last year, and I think Aguero only left them last summer, didn't he? So it's not like they've been starved of this centre-forward player. Liverpool haven't had a centre-forward. Do you know, like...
Yeah, but Man City don't play to centre-forward.
No, but they've had them. They've had Sergio Aguero. They've had Gabriel Jesus. Now they're going to have to change that whole... I think they're going to have to change the whole system now for the way Haaland's strengths are to get the best out of him. But I'm just saying, like, Liverpool have never... Like, it's a long time since we've had that centre-forward that's, a pure 9. Jota wasn't a pure 9. Bobby Firmino wasn't.
But I don't think Jota is a pure 9 anyway.
No, but that's what I mean. And Mane was a winger who went in and done that. So we are going to have now a case where teams we know always doubled up on Salah. If we look at a front three now of Salah, Nunez, Diaz, I don't think you're going to be able to leave any of these free. Hopefully, there's not going to be a thing where they'll say, right, double up on Salah there because Nunez, he's not up to it, or Diaz won't do anything on the far side. I think there's just going to be threat coming from all of these players. And I hope I'm right, you know what I mean? I hope I'm right. But then I hope that Jota, I agree with what was said earlier, that we're sleeping on Jota a bit, that he was brilliant, and he's a poor finish to the season, and we're forgetting all the good that he does. I think that the attack could be really forward, and maybe it's wishful thinking, we'll see. But
I think Haaland will have a great season at City. I think the way they play, I think Haaland's a ridiculous footballer as well. And to be honest with you, when the whole Haaland and Mbappe thing came up about could Liverpool sign any of these, I would have taken Haaland over Mbappe.
No way, he's nowhere near him.
No, I would.
For
what Liverpool needed, that's where I would have went with Haaland. Middle of the box striker. I would have, genuinely.
No.
And for the deal you would have got, like the Mbappe stuff now is just, it's a fucking circus,
Yeah,
but
the Haaland stuff is a circus.
Yeah, but not as much as Mbappe. Like, it's just got done and it's over. The sort of way. But City for me don't play to a striker. I think they play. No. I think they play to get around your fullbacks, and they look for players coming from deep to finish chances, right? And if the player from deep doesn't finish chances, there's a fella on the back post tapping her in. That's how they work, right?
They're obviously changing it now.
They are changing it, but look, Guardiola's good at what he does. When you give him the tools, he'll find a way of making Haaland work. I think Haaland will score loads of goals for Man City. Unstoppable? Nobody's unstoppable. No, I thought Man United were unstoppable in the mid-90s, and turns out they were stoppable. And everything is cyclical and all that. But let's get it right. If I would expect Pep to find a way to get Haaland a lot of chances for Manchester City as well, and I do think the change from Man City will actually make them more dangerous, both in the league and in particularly in Europe, because I think they've been banging their head against the wall in a certain way for 4 or 5 years, and they're going to change it now. And I think they'll actually hurt more teams in Europe.
I think the fact they're bringing in Haaland and Julian Alvarez, people are going to sleep on Julian Alvarez. I think, and they're strongly linked with João Felix as well. I think they're going to look to really increase their centre forward options, their goal scoring options, because I think this not ticky tacky death by football shite that they play. It's so sterile. It's boring. It's effective, but it's so. I think they're going to change it. I want to just comment there. Laszlo Panaflex says Keith's saying people are trying to pretend we bought a dud with Nunez or whatever, but then he's doing exactly that with City and Haaland. No, what I'm saying is expectation, and people don't know about Darwin Nunez, and they're hoping that he's not going to be good. What I'm saying about Erling Haaland is, I agree with what Emmet said. I think he could be in a wheelchair by 26. Do you know what I mean? There's something about him that there's something about him that injuries and things like that. I don't know what it is. But what I'm saying is the expectation of Erling Haaland is he's going to score a goal a game, because he done it in Austria, and he more or less does it in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga. I think if he doesn't do that, he'll still get goals, but what sort of goals does he get? Is he a beast like he is in the Bundesliga, like in the Champions League when you see him, or is he a different type of player? And I just think the expectation is going to be so high on Erling Haaland, and it's going to be so low on Darwin Nunez nearly, that we could see nearly a meeting, that Haaland isn't as good as people expect and Nunez is better. I don't think Haaland's going to be a dud, just to be clear. I think he's going to get goals.
No, I just think a lot of people can see an easier transition of Nunez into a Liverpool side because of the way we play, as opposed to a Haaland way into a City side, the way they play. But I'm under no illusion that they'll find a way. And I think, I honestly think with the players who've been linked to leave Man City and have already left, and the players they've been linked to bring in and have already brought in as well, I think they're fully charging themselves up for a change here. And I think they become Premier League's Premier League. They're good enough to win the Premier League without Erling Haaland. We've seen that. And we're good enough to win the Premier League as well. But Europe, I think, is where they'll benefit most from the Erling Haaland side, and Alvarez, to be fair, and even Calvin Phillips. That's gone there as well. That's an hour and a half. That's absolutely flown by. I've had a lovely time. Really nice time. Not enough telescope chat for my like, but look, you can't have it all your own way. Matt, anything else before we go?
No, not at all. You're going to be kept up to date on all the telescope updates now. You just keep bringing it up. I'm
absolutely up for it, but just prepare yourself to get idiotic answers and I'll be absolutely serious when I'm asking these questions. They will be idiotic, but in my mind, they're completely they're okay to ask. But you'll be on the other end of the phone going, this fella is a complete idiot. And that's fine.
No stupid questions when it comes to learning about science, Gav. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Okay. Gav, from an hour and a half ago, we'll do an hour or so. Yeah, an hour or so is an hour and a half.
It's anything under 2 hours.
Anything under 3 hours. Emma, can you tell the people what app they need to download for this quiz that we're planning?
You don't need to download an app. You can actually just go in on when it's Kahoot. I'm sure plenty of people have actually used it. Kahoot.
Correct.
See,
I'd say there's anybody that works in offices or anything like that have probably actually used it before. Okay. It was used an awful lot during lockdown.
There is an app.
Yeah, you can download the app, but you don't have to have the app. You can go in on the website as well.
Okay, so Kahoot, Kahoot, is a quiz app that you can get on Android and Apple. You can also run it through your desktop, right? People go and start downloading that or getting it on your desktop or wherever it might be. We're going to do a quiz where all of you are going to be involved. All of you are going to get the same questions as the people on screen. And fastest finger forward, you get points for getting the right answer. You get points for answering the quickest and stuff like that. We'll have a leaderboard and we'll have a bit of crack with that. We're trying to get that sorted for Wednesday. But if it doesn't happen this Wednesday, we'll try to get it done for next. Thanks, Emma, for spelling that out. But anything else before we go?
No, I was already excited for the new season. After this show now, I can't wait to get going on the 12th.
Okay.
Absolutely tear United apart.
Can't wait. Tom Boland says, right, I'm in the States. Does that affect me? No. You can play it anywhere in the world, apparently.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with, I think, for Wednesday, we'd have to come up with 100 questions. We're going to do it in the Premier League. The Premier League.
The thing about it, Keith, is because you'll have there 100 questions.
No, Keith's laughing, but he's not going to have to do that with the questions. It's me who's going to have to fucking do them.
There's only it only gives you a certain amount of time to answer it. The person that answers it the quickest.
Oh yeah, no, we're not going to have like Keith who scored and you're going, oh for fuck's sake, and it goes on.
It's literally only, I think it's only 10-15 seconds per question.
It's really
on your phone.
It's really quick fire. What we might do is I'll try get it where we'll have the leaderboard up on screen and all sorts of things. But I'll definitely have 3 people on screen with me. But we might be, I don't know if they'll compete. They might just have a go at some of the questions and keep an eye on the leaderboard. But it's more for the people watching, that they will be able to get the questions and stuff like that. And I know there's a slight delay. When we talk, you see it a couple of seconds later, but that'll be absolutely fine because the questions will be going live to you. And then we'll be talking about it, so we'll be in sync. It'll be absolutely fine. Elizabeth Spolstra. I want to say that right. Kahoot, K-A-H-O-O-T. That is correct. Chris says, I'm not doing the questions. You better believe you're not doing the fucking questions. No, I will do 100 questions on the Premier League. So Liverpool fans, anyone can join in and do it. We will throw it across our social media the next couple of days. And we'll try to have the code. I think you have to code when you go into the app or onto the website to partake.
Yeah, when we put it up on the screen, everybody will see a code.
Yeah. So
they go onto the website or onto the app and you're asked to put in a code. You put in the code that we showed them, and then they put in their nickname.
Yeah.
Avo, Tom, Chris, all
whatever
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we start the quiz. The question will come up on screen. You don't see the question on your phone. You only get the on the screen you'll see the options. It'll be like blue for true, red for false.
Yeah.
But all you'll have on your phone is blue or red. So you have to press it as quick as you can. But then the next time, true might be red and false might be blue.
Is there only true or false questions we can do?
No, you can add in picture rounds.
All right, great, because we're not only doing true or false, like that'd be stupid. But no, the way it's going to work is we're going to do it live on here. We're going to set out the question. We're going to let people do it, and then we're going to have a chat about it. And we'll try to keep the leaderboard live.
So it gives you the leaderboard after every question.
Yeah, so we'll have that shared onto our screen as well. There's loads of work to go into, but we won't have it done by Wednesday. It'll be the weekend.
Hey guys,
don't worry about it.
My wife used this for online teaching for a bunch of 7 and 8 year olds. So if these fucks can't figure that out, come on, that bar is set.
Yeah, but you're come on, you're expecting way too much here.
7 or 8.
Is Elizabeth Spolstra your missus, man?
She sure is, Keith. Look at you, fucking Detective Clouseau over here.
What did he say?
Elizabeth Spolstra is his missus.
Ah, nice. There we go. I made loads of them teaching remotely. Super user friendly. They're all the words we want to hear. We will make a mess of this on Wednesday.
100%.
And Elizabeth will be retracting that statement very, very quickly. Keith, do you want to do the quiz on Wednesday?
Yeah, I'll see what I'm doing.
Grand.
I could be washing my hair on that night, but we'll see.
Listen, we'll see how we get on. Anything else before we go?
Now, I went to see Lightyear today. Has anyone seen Lightyear?
Buzz
Brought
Lightyear?
The kids. Yeah, the Buzz Lightyear movie. It's
a spin-offs. Spin-offs now, is that?
Yeah, it's a spin-off. Yeah, it's
Was
brilliant.
it good?
Go and see it, yeah. Just, with all that talk of telescopes and all that, just automatically had me thinking of space. So, Lightyear, anyone that's into that.
Check it out.
And don't forget Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Stewart.
Jones.
Tom Stewart.
I was supposed to say, Engelbert Humperdinck and Buzz Lightyear. How fucking old are you, Keith?
Well, funny you should say that, Matt. I tell everyone, I'm in my early 30s.
Yeah.
What's that? 41. So.
Yeah, there you go. Late 30s, 41.
Yeah.
Anyway, that has been the Fatback 4 for tonight. It's been a really good show. We've spoken about loads of players, and we've given you loads of notice to go and get that app or get it like as a favourite on the bar up on the top of your desktop. And we will put out the code. We will put out the code on the night of the show, and people will be able to get in, get ready. And like I said, you won't be able to Google stuff because you literally have to answer it, and you'll have so many seconds to answer. And we will have we'll hopefully have the live leaderboard on screen and see who comes out on top. It will be Premier League based, or we might do Liverpool to start. We don't know yet. We'll decide in the next day.
100 questions.
100 questions, but they're quick fire. So it'll be like, right, question 1 is bang, and we'll be sending it out there and then.
Name an Argentinian player in the Premier League.
Yeah, there you go. And Peter Jones' head will fall off. So that's how it goes. That has been the Fatback 4. Thanks a million for watching. Yeah, talk to you in a bit. Over now.